this one is for all my artists out there in the world, or at least in my community, or someone that is watching my video right now. And this is something I picked up on in my art journey that I see no one else talking about at all. And yes, I'm pretty sure if you can see by that title already, you already know what I'm talking about. I'm basically talking about why realism is easier than stylized. You feel like it should be the opposite because drawing cartoonish or more stylized drawings, it seems simple, but it's a lot harder than it is to do realism. And sometimes it even takes more to be stylized than it is to be realistic. And I'm gonna explain as to why that maybe is. So hey, if you're beginning your art journey right now and you kind of want to know what direction to go into, I'm going to tell you probably what you should do and why you should want to do that, or just explain to you why this one's easier than the other one. Before we get into it, my brother, please subscribe and leave a like on the video because I will very much appreciate it. You know, if you want to. So boom, let's just start talking about realism in general. What is realism? Realism is basically the art of drawing something picture perfect to how it is in real life. That's the best way I can explain it, because there's no way you can misunderstand what realism means. Brother, if you're drawing something in a realistic way, if I was to draw myself in realism, I would draw it picture perfect to how I am right now. So let me get into what makes realism easy. One, there are a set of rules you need to follow when drawing realistic beings, or even realistic things such as for a human head has to be a proportional size to their body. You can't draw a big ass head on a little body because it makes no sense in the in real life. It makes no sense. Everything that happens in the real world has to exist in that drawing to make it realistic or have realism. So you're always following the set standard for that specific thing that you're doing. Rather it be people, rather it be objects. There's ways that objects reflect light. There's ways that objects refract light. There's ways that make them work the way they do because of how the world works. To summarize that first point, you can't put weird shapes on human beings that are anatomically impossible because it just doesn't make sense realistically. So this next point is kind of coming off of the other point right there I said before. So the thing with drawing realistic things, they don't necessarily change, and you don't need to change them to be able to interpret what that is when you draw it. For instance, my nose will always be the same way. You will always draw it the same way unless I get plastic surgery or anything like that, but you don't have to change the shape of it to interpret it as being my nose. Otherwise, in stylized art, when you draw a nose, it's probably just going to be in line because you're transferring over what you see in real life to something that is simplified or maybe changed drastically, but in a different way. Again, there's just no need for you to be able to change some things for you to be able to interpret what's happening in your drawing. All you have to do is draw the one-to-one. Like, you just have to draw from what you see directly. It's literally a one-in-one copy and paste. That's what realism is. You don't need to change. Oh wait, how are we gonna be able to tell that this is a nose? A line. No, you don't need to do that. It is what it is, and it is what you see it is, basically. And I know I sound like I'm making this complicated, but I'm telling you, like, it's really not. It's really not that complicated. I threw a ton of examples, but I don't know if I came across them and explained them well. So again, let me say this with realism. So point one, I feel like was straightforward. You need to follow these rules and structures that are already present in real life to make the art realistic. Point two, you don't need to change anything over in your art piece to be able to interpret what that is. Meaning me just saying all you have to do is copy and paste. It's a one-of-one drawing from when you're drawing realism. So when drawing stylized art, let's say you're using a realistic reference, right? You would obviously not draw it one-to-one because it's a stylized piece. You would change things, and you can do that because it works, because it's a stylized piece. You're not going for a realistic type environment or art style. You're not doing that. So everything you have over in the realistic piece, you're transferring it over to being stylized. So let's say your eyes not going to be as detailed as you see them right now. You're probably going to draw one line on top, one line on the bottom, and a circle in the middle, and that can be interpreted as an eyeball. Same thing as for a nose. On most stylized pieces, sometimes they'll draw one line and call it a day, and that's all they need to do for it to come off as, hey, that's a nose. Now that I feel like I got the two biggest points that I see when drawing realism and how it makes it easy, let's get into why stylized art is hard, because you may be thinking, wait, you just said all you have to do is draw 2 lines, do this and that, and it's done. Let me explain that. Just because you use minimal line work when working with stylized art pieces, it's hard to make it look good. Because when you're drawing stylized things, there's no rules to what you were doing. So you're able to put the biggest head on the smallest body. You're able to put the biggest body with the smallest head. You can easily make oversized eyes and a small mouth and make that come off as looking good. But it's really hard to do, and it's really hard to interpret that, hey, this is a professional drawing this. Only people gonna be bullshitting when I'm talking about this, but go ahead, I applaud you to do it yourself. First one, draw a realistic nose. You're gonna see it's pretty simple, because you're gonna watch tutorials and be like, oh my god, they did this, they did this, they did this, oh my god, it's so good. And then you're gonna go over to try to draw stylized and try to draw that nose in a stylized way and try to picture that being a nose. It's really hard to do because there's not much information you can take off of a straight line. It's really hard to make it come across as what it is. Again, drawing stylized art is always hard to get the message you want to come across, because the same way you interpret that picture that you draw might not be the same way that someone else that sees your art maybe interpret that same thing. With realism, you will always know what is, because we see it in our everyday life. With stylized things, sometimes you see someone draw something and you're just like, what the hell did you even draw? It all depends on what you consume and what kind of content you consume on a daily basis, I would say. And point 2, with drawing stylized art, this is gonna throw some of you off. With drawing stylized art, you have to be perfect. All of your lines and everything has to be perfect, because at the end of the day, you're drawing straight lines, not really wavy, imperfect imperfections like normal humans have. Like, we don't have a bunch of straight lines on our face. You can draw a so fucked up line and it can still come together into a shape of a head. It can come together into anything, because humans are naturally imperfect. And with drawing stylized things, those lines literally have to be perfect, and you're going to be spending a lot of time making sure they are. You don't know how many times I press Ctrl-Z when I'm in Clip Studio Paint trying to draw like an anime type figure or a person or anything like that. I feel like only my artists are gonna get that point. But when you're drawing realistic things, you can make as many mistakes and it's not going to matter, because it's still gonna come together in the end. Instance, take your favorite anime, my brother. Go look at their face. Their faces are always perfectly round or perfectly angular. There is no curvature in their lines and faces and things like that. There is barely any, like, there's no waviness, not curvature. Obviously they have curves. There's no waviness within their lines at all. They don't look messy. They look clean as hell. You know how long it takes to draw clean lines and how much practice that is gonna take for you to be able to perfect that? It's like years of experience right there, my brother. Trust me, that's like years. And while it does take time to learn realism too, you get realism a lot easier and quicker than you do stylized. So for all my brain rotted people out there, just to explain it in Marvel Rivals terms, I'm even surprised you kind of made it this far. But drawing realistic is like it being in a quick play, and drawing stylized is like being a comp. It's 2 different things, my brother. It's 2 different worlds too as well. If you disagree with any of the things I said here goes a bonus point I'm about to throw out into the open. My brother, there's a lot of realism YouTubers or short creators out there on the YouTube space and TikTok, anything, drawing realistic portraits for in a minute, based off drawing big blobs on the screen and then refining it over time. They draw them way quicker than a stylized person can draw anything in their fucking whole discography. I'm telling you, there are people on the street that draw realism in a matter of goddamn like 10 minutes. And it's a complete thing. It's like a complete whole picture. It takes some of these stylized drawers 2, maybe 1 whole day just to be able to draw one piece. And no, I'm not talking about an anime. I'm talking about one general piece, like one painting in general, or one picture, or one scene in general. Think about that. There are people on the street that are drawing this in 10 minutes, making a little hobby out of it. There are short content creators being able to draw full portraits in the span of a short. And there are the stylized people who are taking a whole day just to draw a commission. Come on. Come on, bro. It's not even fair at this point. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the Yap Fest here and also end the video too as well. So if you like what you've seen, go ahead, leave a like, comment, and then subscribe, because you know I'm on my come up. Why am I hunching over so much? I need to sit up more. This is why I put the camera up there. Okay, boom. I'm out.